Okay. Okay, if stream is running right now, then I'll just go. Oh wait, hold on. Yes, I know, I'm just as bad as Raw at solving puzzles. Which is really saying something. Okay, so hello everyone. This is gonna be my stream on how to do advanced I Want to Be a Guy techniques, or as most of us call them, pixel techniques. If you were here last time, you will know that I had failed to turn on Twitch archiving, which means that my stream was not recorded, which means I have to do this again. So this time, hopefully my stream will be recorded, and then I'll be able to upload to YouTube. But anyway, so this is pretty much going to be the same thing as last time. So if you were here last time, unfortunately I don't have too many new things to talk about, but if you weren't here last time, then you should probably have a bunch of fresh new questions, which will be good. I won't be able to highlight it. I mean, it doesn't really matter. All I need is to be able to upload this video to YouTube. There is an option to do that, right? There is a way to easily send videos over from Twitch to YouTube. Okay, then yeah, I'll figure it out later. But for now, as long as this thing is being archived, I shouldn't have any problems. But anyway, for those who weren't here last time, I'll just go through how the stream is going to work. So there's quite a few techniques that I'm going to go through tonight. I'm pretty sure this will cover all the techniques we know in the Western community. I have no idea if the Japanese and Korean players know a bunch more techniques, but they probably do. Anyway, but for the techniques that we do know, I'll go through them one at a time. Generally from basic to more advanced techniques, unless one technique requires knowledge of a previous one, in which case I'll consider that in the order. But I'll go through all the techniques, and for each technique, I'll first show off how to do it. I'll explain why each technique works in terms of the programming of the basic I Want to Be the Guy engines, and then I'll show you some examples. Like, you'll usually start with some examples that are very obvious, that show very obviously how the technique works, and then I'll give some more advanced ones from actual I Want to Be the Guy games that show where these techniques actually are used. So, yeah, that'll give you guys a pretty good context of why you would need to know these techniques, as well as what they are in the first place. Okay then, so I'll just start off with the most basic pixel technique, which is one that's been known in our community for quite some time now. I'm sure most of you guys have heard of this one before, but yeah, I'm starting with the... Yes, Hector, I have checked out the recording of this video. It's being recorded. I'm starting off with pixel lines, or more specifically, horizontal pixel lines. So I'll just go pull up Geezer's program to start showing this off. For those who don't know, and again, I'm assuming most of you guys know about this, Geezer made this nice little program here that made the basic engine the most I Want to Be Guy players use, I Want to Be Engine YouTube version. And it's just a nice little program that lets you practice all these jumps, lets you put blocks around, adding spikes and whatnot, so that you can practice and record whatever jumps you want. Oh, window just a little higher. Oh, he has? Okay, I'll go download the new version later. Oh, I don't know if he's uploaded it. Is this good? Okay. So it's a very nice program. It also shows you your basic position and stuff, which, as you're gonna see, which I'll make use of later. But for now, the important thing is that just a nice little program that will let me demonstrate most of these techniques. Oh, that's an interesting little addition. But okay, so let's start off with pixel lines. So this was the thing that, like I said, is the music still loud? I keep making it quieter, but apparently the music is still too loud. Ina says it's not loud. I don't know. I'll make it a little quieter. I don't know. I am very clearly not an expert at streaming. I think I'm pretty good at making videos, but streaming is completely new territory for me. But anyway, so I'll show off what pixel lines are. So you can see right here, this game shows the exposition. This is all in terms of pixels, obviously. So what this means here is that the kid is 477 pixels away from the left wall or origin. So if you guys don't know what a pixel looks like in terms of this unit, hold on. A block is basically 32 pixels by 32 pixels long, so that's how you know what a pixel size is. And frames are 1/50th of a second. So pixels and frames are the two units I'll be talking in today. So whenever, for example, I'm talking about the speed of the kid's speed, for example, is a speed of 3. That's specifically in pixels per frame. Move the chat window up a bit so you can see the very bottom of the message is cut off. Okay. So here's where pixel lines come in. If you look up here, right now his position is 477. Now, let's say I want to move the kid precisely to the position 479. You would think that'd be pretty easy to do. I mean, just tap right a couple times and you'll go to 479. The problem is the kid does not move at 1 pixel per frame, he moves at 3 pixels per frame. So if you tap right, what happens here is the kid goes over 3 pixels. Or I tap it too long and it goes over 6 pixels, but hold on. Okay, so 480. You notice that he skipped right over 479. And because the kid moves at a constant speed of 3, there's no acceleration or deceleration whatsoever. There is no way you can move by 1 or 2 pixels. Like, no matter how much I run around, he will keep moving between 477 and 480. And there is no way, and by running around, there's no way you're ever going to get onto the position of 479. So this is what's called aligns. Aligns, you have 3 aligns. This program actually shows you the line you're on right now. I happen to be at align 0, which means that I can only be at expositions that are multiples of 3, like 477 and 480. Yeah, I'll get to that soon, Wolsk. I'll give more details about that this time around. Okay, so how do I get into position 479? 479 is 2 more than a multiple of 3. So what I would want it to have is a line of 2. How do I change this little number up here? And the answer, as it happens, is running into walls. The reason is because when you touch a wall, you don't move precisely 3 necessarily. You move just as far as you need so that you stop right in front of the wall. Which means whatever the line you were on before does not change what the line you'll be, does not affect what line you'll be when you touch the wall. So right here, this wall right here put me onto the second line. This means I can now start landing on pixels that are 2 more than a multiple of 3, like 479. You see now that I've touched this wall, I'm finally able to stop on this little pixel here. So really, that's basically all there is to lines. So here's an example of this in practice. And then I'll get into how you actually calculate lines with more efficiency. So the most obvious reason where lines will come up is when you're trying to get onto a 1 pixel gap next to a spike. So here this spike is right on the block. Let's see what happens if I move it over by 1 pixel. Kind of have to be a little sensitive here. I think this was it. Okay. So I'm going to touch this wall this time, put me back on a line 0 as it happens. So I want to try jumping right onto this little pixel here, but I seem to keep missing it. As you can see, I am not on the correct line. Only one of the 3 lines will let me stand on this pixel. Let's see here. Touching the wall puts me on X570, so I want to be at position 571. So that means hi Zerai. That means I want to be on a line 1. So you will want to, first off, there are ways, as Wolsk mentioned before, to calculate exactly which walls touch onto which line. for now, before I explain that, I'll just put out a few random walls and we'll see if any of these work. So let's see. Let's see if any of these put me onto a line 1. Oh, look, lucky first guess. So this one puts me on a line 1, exactly how I wanted, and now I should be able to land on this pixel. That was completely random. I did not intend that to work, but okay. I am feeling like crazy right now. Okay, there you go. So you can see here that I landed exactly where I want to, and obviously I would need to do that if this were an actual game where the spikes did kill me and not just turn red. Now, so let's see here. How would I actually calculate which walls put me onto this pixel? Like, if I did want to just randomly run to walls and see, and by trial and error, if any of these let me stand here, what have I done? So first, to actually calculate which walls to go into which lines, you have to take into account the size of blocks. So usually these games take place on 32 by 32 grids. Usually you won't see too many walls on just random positions like this. Usually they're all specifically on a 32 by 32 snap grid. So that's generally a safe assumption to make. And 32 is 1 less than a multiple of 3. Yes, Hector, we know you do that. Just please don't do that with walls, because that would be really annoying. But okay. So let's look at this one here as an example. So if I touch this wall, why is it the case touching this wall is a bad line? The reason touching this wall is a bad line is because I need to be on the pixel right in front of this wall. Like, what I need to be is 1 pixel further forward than this one. So clearly this will not put me on the right line because I can't just go 1 pixel forward. What if there was a wall right here though? Let's see if I can calculate whether or not this wall will touch me without, whether touching this wall will get me onto the right line without even testing it out first. Well, let's see here. If I touch this wall, how far will I be away from this specific pixel? Well, from this wall, I would first have to walk 32 pixels forward, followed by 1 pixel more forward to get on this little spot. So that is precisely 33 pixels, which is a multiple of 3. That means if I touch this wall, it will put me on a line 1, the correct line. See? Got it right. And now, again, I should be able to land here. What if it was this wall here? Will this one put me onto the right line? Well, like I said before, because the blocks are 32 pixels long, and that's 1 off from a multiple of 3, that means if you go 1 wall to the left, 32 pixels to the left, that will change you onto a different line. So this one, and well, this is not too high. This one, these 3 walls here will all take me onto different lines. So 1. Let's see here. This should be 2, I think. Yep, 2 and 0. So that's a good way to compare walls. So it should be easy to, so you can look at these 3 and you know all 3 will take you onto each of the 3 different lines. Now, what if you want to look at right walls? So what about this wall over here to the left of the kid? Will this wall take me onto the same line as this wall to the right of the kid? And the answer is yes. As it happens, if you have a nice little alcove like this, both walls will take you onto the same line. And the reason for that has to do with the kid's size. The kid, okay, the dimensions of the kid, for those who don't know, the kid is a rectangle. Yeah, I know this is a little confusing, so if anyone's confused here, please don't mind asking questions. And then I know you know this. I know a lot of you guys know this. I want to be pretty inclusive here. Don't worry, I will get to a lot more advanced stuff than this later on. But for now, I'm going over the beginner stuff. So the reason these 2 will take me to the same line is because the dimensions of the kid are that he is a 21 by 11 pixel rectangle. So he is 11 pixels wide and 21 pixels tall. So in this little hole here is 32 pixels wide. That means to get from this wall to this wall, the kid is moving 32 minus 21 pixels, which is 11. No, wait, no. I got that backwards. Sorry. 32 minus 11, which is 21. So he has to move 21 pixels to get from here to here, and 21 is a multiple of 3. That's why you can calculate that these two walls take you to the same line. And because of this, this gives you a nice easy way to compare any two walls. So if I wanted to compare touching this wall here to this wall up here, the way to compare those is again by counting the walls between them, and then again considering whether it's left side or right side. So first off, touching this left wall would be the same as touching 1, 2, 3. This left wall, this one right here, it is 1 off from this wall. And as or I might as well just bring it down here. And as I mentioned, these two walls are the same. Therefore, because this one's there from this one's the same as that one, these two walls take you to different lines. So let's see here, this one takes me to 2, this takes me to 1, so I was correct. These two walls are different lines. So that's basically what you need to know about calculating pixel lines. So if you get good at this sort of calculation process, you'll be able to determine with relatively little effort how to find 3 different walls that each take you to a different line. And then, if you're doing a precise jump, you'll often need to know which line you're on, because oftentimes one line makes it a lot easier, and on occasion, only one line will be even physically possible. So clearly, it's very useful to know, be able to quickly determine which walls will take you onto the different lines and then test them all. And there's sometimes one impossible line, as Hector said, which can get annoying. Can you show a plane downwards? Hold on. You mean, what? Oh, here we go. This one. Yeah, I just realized I didn't see the first comment. Okay, so you mean going from here to down here? Considering the difficulty of the jump, probably a crashing plane. Okay, this jump is a bit annoying. It would probably take me like a couple minutes to get it down, but as Hector said, there is one line where this would be impossible, but there are 2 it is possible. I'm not sure which one's the impossible line, but if I had to guess, you would want to be on a line that would either let you get as close to this pixel as possible, or as close to this pixel as possible. So, touching this wall right here would let me go as barely as possible, and so I wouldn't have to go as far to get past this one. I'm assuming this is a good line. So let's test it out. Let's see if I can beat this jump now that I'm on this line. It'll probably take me again a few tries because it's kind of precise, but give me a second. Again, I'm sure I'm gonna embarrass myself a lot in this stream. I'm not necessarily the best when I'm playing live, but God damn it. There we go. Okay, so yes, this is one of the good lines. When you're on this line, you will be able to beat this jump. So that's an example of how I just calculated which wall I wanted to touch. I wanted to touch this wall right here, or any equivalent wall. An equivalent wall would have been, say, touching this one, or 1, 2, 3. Touching this wall here would bring me to the same one, and that would have been a good line, because this lets me just get barely past this last pixel of the spike. Well, anyway, so that's a quick tutorial on pixel lines. Like I said, I'll generally include at least one actual example from an actual I Want to Be the Guy game to show off all these techniques in practice. And since there's a lot of I Want to Be the Guy games that involve pixel lines because it's so basic, I'll just go show a simple example from the original I Want to Be the Guy. Hold on. Hiddo. Might be useful to explain the use of 1/4 blocks for practical lines, maybe not sure. Oh, those. I mean, if you're dealing with half blocks, I think he's referring to. Wait, is there one? Geezer's program doesn't have mini blocks, but he does have mini spikes. But okay, Some games will occasionally have mini blocks that are 1/4 the size, so that would be 16 by 16 pixel blocks. In any case, yeah, G equals 16. So that would have blocks that are of like 1/2 off from each other. Again, 16 is not a multiple of 3, so each of these will take me to a different line. So same thing. 2, 0, 1. So okay, so that explains that pretty well. Okay, so I'm now going to pull up the original I Want to Be the Guy. As far as I am aware, pixel lines are the only I Want to Be the Guy pixel technique that actually is relevant in the original game, which happens to be made in a different engine than most fan games. As some of you guys know, I Want to Be the Guy was made in Multimedia Fusion 2, while most engines were made in Game Maker. So let's see here. I think this music sounds a little loud right now. Hold on. Yeah, for some reason, all my audio is already on way too loud. Hold on. I'm just gonna lower my game down in general, my computer down in general. Okay. So again, just tell me if ever I have any audio problems. Because again, I'm not actually able to hear myself right now. My computer speakers do not work when my microphone is plugged in. Yeah, hey, most engines are pretty much the same, except original. The original I Want to Be the Guy, I Want to Be the Shrine Maiden 2, I Want to Kill the Guy, I Want to Be the Bashi. Games like those will generally have all have original engines. But for the basic engines, which are the U2 engine and Micron engine, which the vast majority of fan games are made in, those are all the same engines with pretty much the same physics. So, since most games are made in those, usually they all feel about the same. But anyways, going back to I Want to Be the Guy, even though I Want to Be the Guy is made in a very different engine than most of those games, pixel lines still happen because the kid still moves at a constant velocity in this game. So, pixel lines... Really? It's still loud? Hold on a second. Okay, apparently the volume of my computer is not actually affecting the volume of the game. It's XSplit that determines volume, it's not my sound mixer. Okay, hold on. Wait, is it the microphone I want to change or the speaker? Okay, change the speaker. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, honestly, game volume doesn't matter too much right now, but, okay, is audio good now? Nope, I use XSplit. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, whatever. You can't hear the game, good enough. You do not need to hear I Want to Be the Guy. I'm sure you've all heard this single song so many times you don't care. Okay, so back to the point. So let's look at this little room right here. So this room here is kind of infamous to people who play I Want to Be the Guy on Impossible, because the jump here at the end is relatively precise. If you play the original, you know that touching this little button here results in this spike getting larger. And then the spike ceiling, when the spike ceiling goes down, you can't stand here. So the point is, this is an annoying jump, and people have a lot of trouble with it. So some players actually prefer to use an unusual strategy where you actually try to stand between the pixels of the spike ceiling, so you don't actually have to speedrun the room, like this. So as you can see, I failed there. Obviously, sitting between those two spikes is extremely precise, and as it happens, you will need to be on a good pixel line to succeed. If you are on a bad pixel line, this jump is... Not this jump, it's not really a jump. standing in the right spot is completely impossible. So let's touch that wall there. Let's see if that's a good wall. Spoiler, it's not. I tested it before stream, don't worry, I know what I'm doing. And no matter how hard you try walking back and forth, you will not be able to stop exactly where you need to survive this spike ceiling, or at least in this position, if you're on that wall. The wall that back when I was doing a lot of impossible attempts, the wall I would use is this wall right here. This wall lets me stand exactly where I need to, and assuming I don't fuck up here, which I think I'm in the right position. Yep, there we go. I was in the right position, so I survived that. And in my opinion, if once you have knowledge of that, this becomes much easier. Though I failed completely miserably there because, yeah, I'm still not used to this engine. I have not played I Want to Be the Guy in a very long time. But the point is, you get the point. So you can see how having good knowledge of pixel lines will help you out in times like this where you need to be standing in extremely precise spots. And again, pixel lines come up in almost any I Want to Be the Guy fan game with a lot of precise jumps, simply because being on the right line makes these jumps much easier. Again, Sword Slinger, I'm sure you know about pixel lines a lot better than a lot of people. Well, what soundtrack this is? Well, that song there was the castle theme from Mega Man 2, I think. Okay, so I'm sure that was all very well known to you guys, so let's move on to something a little more advanced than that. And that would be the Dietrich. So let's pull up, yeah, Dr. Wily Stage 2. So let's go back here. And since it's going to be an extremely long video, I'll be sure to put timestamps up in the YouTube video, so anyone who wants to watch that will be able to just skip around to whatever trick they want to know. So you guys will just be able to skip past the pixel lines and obvious stuff like that. That is not in window. Yes, a D trick to be precise, because it's relevant to both the A and D buttons. So this is kind of a cheap trick. You'll see why in a second. Because it only works in one I Want to Be the Guy engine, and it's kind of abusing a mechanic that in a sense isn't a real I Want to Be the Guy mechanic. Nonetheless, and Wolsk is a well-known hater of this trick. But regardless, it is a trick, it is a pixel trick, and some fan games do use it. So, by some I mean a very few, but there are at least a couple. So, it's worth teaching. If you don't want to use it, then whatever, but I'm just going to show it off. I'm just going to quickly show it off. Okay. Well, there's also a second one if you include my game, Hector. And I'm also showing off a lot of jumps that could make use of this. Anyway, so in U2 Engine, guy who made it, I'm pretty sure his name is in fact U2, he realized that pixel lines was kind of a problem because in a sense it's kind of stupid that you can screw yourself over by saving at a save point on the wrong line, and then not being able to find a wall that puts you on the right line for a jump ahead of you. So clearly that's kind of, it can result in a lot of stupid situations in some fan games that don't specifically give you the right wall in front of your jumps. So U2's solution was to add in a new couple of keys called the A and D keys that each move you over by 1 pixel. So D moves you to 1 pixel to the right, A moves you 1 pixel to the left. And you can see here the X position changing by 1 as I press the A and D buttons back and forth. Now obviously, when you add a new mechanic into a fan game, you have to be very sure that that there won't be any way to abuse it, but he kind of failed. He made it so that these buttons don't work when you're mid-air, so that prevents most possible abuses of it, but there are still ways to abuse this little technique. The main one being what I call the D trick, where, what the fuck? Geezer's program. Okay. It was glitching there for a second. Okay, so one way to use it is by getting onto a line. I know from experience that this line here, will touching this wall, will let me get to the very tip of this block. The reason for that being, again, because because the kid is 11 pixels long. This is 32 pixels wide. So from here to here is 11 to 32 pixels, which is 43 minus 1, so that he's just barely standing on. That's 42, which is a multiple of 3. If you don't understand all those calculations, doesn't matter. The point is, touching this wall here will let me stand on the very tip of this block. So what if I wanted to do a very far jump? Let's say there was a very far block, and I wanted to jump from here to here. The most obvious way is just going all the way over to the edge and doing a jump like this. But it's possible to gain an extra pixel by pressing D the instant I would jump off the block. And I'll show you that in the game, a game that was specifically designed around this concept, which is Ultra Gamer's game, I Want to Beat the Magic Jump. Hold on, where is that? Sure, a lot of you have seen this before, but here you go. Okay. So this, as it happens, this block is just barely far enough away that it's only possible if you use the Dietrich. So first off, you have to press D once to get onto the right line, or just touch this wall here, and then basically you just want to do a bunch of warning jumps where you make sure you press D at the end, the moment you land, the moment you're at the edge. So probably taking a few tries, not too many. It's a pretty easy jump. Easy once you know how to do it anyway. It's kind of a puzzle game because obviously most players do not know about this and they find this jump to be impossible. Yeah, if you want to know what this song is, just ask Ultra. I have no idea what this song is. Again, I'm sure I'm going to embarrass myself plenty of times today. Damn it, this jump is easy. I assure you, this jump is very, very easy. There you go. Okay. I am magic! Yeah, this game found the wiki, and yeah, if you try it out, you'll see that this is impossible without Dietrich, because he put the block just 1 pixel further than it would have been possible otherwise. Oh wait, you have a question about a specific jump here? Hold on. Let me see this. Okay, that jump. Wait, why is this up? Wait, Sword, where do you start below the spikes or above the spikes? Well, looks like Hector's helping you out with that, so you guys can figure that out. So anyways, that's one use of the Dietrich. As an example of where that can be used in a less contrived situation. Hold on. Let's go back to Giza's program. Oh, Twitch is eating your messages again. Yeah, Twitch has been getting pretty glitchy lately. But basically for that jump, Sword, what you want to do is get as close to the bottom spike as possible. So you essentially want a line that would be equivalent to running into the bottom spike if it were a wall. As if it were a wall. But anyway, and another possible alright, hold on. So I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen this jump before. It's kind of popular in games made by QOOO, or however the fuck you say his name. The guy who made Insanity. He likes this jump a lot. And yeah. Yeah, okay, QO. Well, I already say his name. So this is this jump is possible. I'm not going to show you how to do it right now because it involves a technique I'll be explaining later called jump canceling. But basically, the point I'm trying to make here is that these spikes can be lowered a little bit without making the jump impossible. Obviously, it makes it harder. There are ways to do this. It's possible to do this jump even with a lowered ceiling. So one might ask, how far can we lower these spikes before this jump becomes impossible? If you were here last time, you would already know the answer to that. And that is that it actually depends on the engine you're using. In regular engines, in the regular U2 engine and Nicoron engine without A&D, the furthest this can be lowered before a jump becomes impossible is 28 pixels. I mean, the gap, they can be lowered by 4 pixels, and this gap would be 28 pixels wide. However, so that would be this jump right here. However, if you use U2's engine, where if the A and D keys added in, that lets you do the Dietrich, you can actually do it with a 27 pixel gap. Yeah, I know, you actually came in pretty early this time, Ultra. So now this gap is 27 pixels wide, and obviously because it's so low down, you have to use extremely short jumps, which makes it so that it's hard to get to the end in time. And the only way to get from this block to this block in time is to do the Dietrich, because it will let you go, it will give you one less frame time required to make it to the other block. And if you go through the calculations, you'll see why that is. I'm not good at jump canceling, so I'll just show you a TAS of this jump here. Yes. Would bunny hop work too? No, it would not work here because it results in you going higher and hitting the spikes up here. So it's the same reason as why doing a high jump won't get you past this, because you'll hit the top spike. The only way to get from here to here fast enough without hitting the top spikes is to use the Dietrich. So just to prove that what I just said is true, give me a second, I'll pull my TAS of it. So here's a TAS of that little jump here, the 64 by 27 pixel gap jump with floor. Oh, hold on a second. Just get the window right. Okay, here we go. So, yeah. The important thing you want to look out for in this video is notice that this line is going to change from 0 to 1 as I run through this jump. Right as I got past this part right here, the line increased by 1 because I had to press the D button to get the extra pixel you need to finish this jump. So that's pretty much the most simple, non-contrived example I can think of a jump where the Dietrich would be useful. Okay. So, and the other version of the Dietrich, which I also went through last time, is a sort of variant that I like to call D-running. Or sprinting, I guess. So, for some reason, U2 allows you to use the Dietrich, I mean not the Dietrich, the D button while you're running. And not surprisingly, being able to spam D while you're running actually lets you go a little faster because you keep going forward 1 extra pixel each time you press D while you're running. So just to prove that was making me run faster. Oh, you make a jump too, but walked off the edge and died. That's unfortunate. Make sure you record if you succeed. Okay, so hold on. So I made a quick little video of the kid just doing normal running, and I'm going to show you that I can outrun him by doing the Dietrich. So let's see here. And see, so I was running a little faster than the kid regular does there. And in an actual game, this would be relevant if you were, say, running from a really fast trigger, then you had to do it really fast. Or, as Hector mentioned last time, not most fan games that would use this technique, i.e. needle games, most of those don't usually have triggers in them. In a regular fan game, and a needle fan game, chances are this technique would only be relevant if you had a bunch of apples you had to run under. Oh, wait. Hold on, it's being glitchy again. Okay. So, hold on, I need this to be right. Demonstrate this. Could you move even faster spamming than a TAS, or is it limited? There is no limit. If you press D every single frame, you will move 4 pixels per frame instead of 3. So you can move insanely, but that's still pretty insanely fast. So you'd be moving over 30% faster than the kid usually does. So let's see here. I'm not sure if this is the right height. It probably isn't. Oh no, it's actually the right height. Okay. So it's a well-known fact that. Oh, yes, you can. For some reason, then that's not actually how the game works. Game Maker is able to tell, even if you press and let go of D every single frame, it is able to tell that you've let go of the D button in between. So pressing it and letting go of D every single frame will in fact result in that input occurring every single frame individually, and that would result in you going a speed of 4 instead of 3. But anyway, if you look carefully at these apples here, you'll notice that the apples are bobbing up and down a little bit. That's their animation. And it's kind of a well-known fact in Fangames that this does in fact change the hitbox of the apple, which means that if it's at the right height, you'll be able to run under them only when they're upwards. So let's see, if I time it right, I can run under them. Hold on a second. And I'm sure I'm fucking it up right now. Yeah. Hold on a second. Why is this? It works kind of weirdly in Dietrich's program, so I'm sorry if this isn't working. I don't know what's happening with this right now. I have no idea what it's doing. But okay, I'm sorry if I'm not able to demonstrate in Dietrich's program, but in the way this works in most fan games, yeah, even when I was upwards, it's not letting me run under them. I'm not sure what's happening. Yeah, that's kind of the problem. The origin point of the apples is in fact wrong. If you look at if you look here, the origin point is off for some reason. So it's hard for me to do this right, but the way it works in many fan games is that they'll have little segments like this where you have to run under apples, and you have to time it so you run under them when the apples are bobbed up. Like, for example, this occurs a few times and I want to be a brute of a man. And you can clearly see that if you use D running, you would actually be able to run under longer walls of apples. Like, I'd be able to run under, say, this. It might be possible to run under this with D running, but it otherwise would be impossible. And if it was a Taz game, they could even put so many apples that would only be possible if you use auto fire D speed and move at a speed of 4 rather than 3. But yeah, that's like the most obvious. That's pretty much the only application of D running that I could think of in a Needle game, because this is the only way to force high speed without using a trigger. So okay, so that's D running in Dietrich in a nutshell. As Wolskes would probably tell you, this is a very cheap trick. I can see why most fan games don't use it. Oh, that's a good point, Zera, actually. This would actually make for a very good speedrunning trick. Like, if you have long segments where you have nothing to dodge, for example, like a nice open floor right before a boss fight, you can actually go a little faster in an engine like this just by spamming the D or A button. So yeah, this is a cheap trick. I'm not going to go any more time into this, but you can see why this would be a useful technique in some fan games. Anyways, so now I'm going to go back into a legitimate into more legitimate techniques that are relevant in any engine and do not require special keys. Also, I'm pretty sure YouTube does have AD, but you have to manually enable it, and I don't know how. You can ask someone else, but there are games like that. What runnable game has AD, though? I would imagine that I Want to Kill the Camellia 3 will have AD enabled in it, though I can't be sure. And I would assume that'll be a runnable game, unless all the speedrunners find it too hard and say fuck it. Who knows? But yeah, there really aren't any games that use AD that are really speedrunnable. I'm just making a point here. Let's move on. Oh, it's only level 97. It's no harder than a giant kid of Wolf Trap. True. Then again, people don't even speedrun Camellia 2. They just speedrun the parts that are easy enough. So if you guys try speedrunning the easy parts of Camellia 3, then yeah. So if the only easy parts are stages, say 1 and 2, perhaps that would be kind of pointless. So let's see here. So let's go to the next technique I'm getting into is a very important technique that will probably be relevant for the rest of the video, so let's get it out of the way. And that's going to be vertical lines. I know Den was confused about that, so I'm sure I'm going to get to this part now. Why did I close this out? I'm still using this. Okay, hold on. So, vertical lines. Yeah, those are all games that would take a very long time to beat. Is he seriously going to include all those games in the boss rush? Oh wait, what? Yeah, I mean, we'll distinguish vertical lines and vertical pixel strings, okay? Vertical line refers to what I'm about to talk about, vertical pixel strings will refer to what I'm going to get into later. Okay. So if you look at the Y position up here, right? You'll notice that it says points 20 after the Y. And you might wonder first why that is. Like, why is Game Maker keeping track of these little fractions of a pixel when all of gameplay occurs in actual full pixels? Hector, maybe. I mean, I consider it to be a sort of a line in that it's an inherent behavior of the kid's position that's kind of invisible. I don't know a better word to call it. I'm just gonna call it vertical lines. It's good enough. People who know who deal with this know what I'm referring to and talk about it. Vertical lines or V lines. That's just what I'm gonna call it from now on. But anyway, so you'll notice that if you look at the Y position up here, that the whole number, the 567, is always the same when I'm on the ground, but the fraction at the end keeps changing. And you're probably wondering, what is this fraction of a pixel and what does it do to affect gameplay? So to explain this, I'm gonna first start off with why Game Maker even records these fractional pixels. Like, what is the point of this in the first place? So let's go off to Microsoft Word, shall we? I'll open up Microsoft Word a few times to show off how to do a few basic calculations. Let's see here. You get the window right. Let's try here. Is this good? Can you see everything right now? Can you see my cursor right here? That's okay. I don't know. What does the word align even mean? But the point is, this is what we call it. So, so let's start off with an example of why fractional pixels even exist in Game Maker. So as a little example, imagine if I created a platform, a moving platform, that moves at a speed of 3.5 to the right. Let's say this platform starts at position 0. And what would happen in every single frame if Game Maker did not keep track of fractional pixels? It's okay, Hector. I'm fine with this naming. I mean, really, the only purpose of names is just to give it a convenient thing to call. I might as well call it the OogieBoogie Technique if we all decide just to use that one. The important thing is that we all use the same technique and we have consensus over it. So let's see here. So if a horizontal platform, shut up. If a horizontal platform is moving at a speed of 3.5, but the Game Maker did not keep track of fractional pixels, well, let's see what happens. It would move over to spot 3.5, but because there aren't any fractional pixels, that would just round up to 4. Okay, so that doesn't seem too bad. But what happens next frame? Next frame moves over another 3.5, so that goes to 7.5. But wait, the game doesn't keep track of fractional pixels, so it rounds that up to 8. Then it moves again over another 3.5 pixels, and then it would be at 11.5, but there's no fractional pixels, so that runs up to 12. And then keep going, 15.5 rounds 16, and so on. So you could see that this doesn't actually look like a platform is moving at the speed of 3.5. Clearly, it's moving at 4 pixels each frame. So that would be a platform exactly the same as a platform of speed of 4. So how does Game Maker create platforms that are speed 3.5 precisely? It does so by sort of creating the strange little divide, where the game keeps track of fractional pixels, even though in the gameplay itself, everything occurs in whole pixels. Like the word I used to describe it last time is it manifests as a whole pixel. So let's see here. So first frame, the platform moves to position 3.5. And it keeps track of this number. In the coding, it will say that the platform is at position 3.5. However, it will manifest itself as if it were at position 4. And at this frame, for all intents and purposes, that platform is at position 4 exactly. So it would be behaving exactly the same as any other platform at position 4. On the next frame, though, when it adds 3.5 again, instead of adding it to the 4, it actually adds it back to the 3.5 that was still hidden in the code. So in the next frame, it's a 3.5 plus 3.5, which is 7, which of course manifests itself. Then it goes to 10.5, which manifests as 11, then 14, which manifests itself again. So as you can see, since Game Maker calculates things this way, this actually works out right, because the platform is moving as you would expect it to. Like, it's alternating between moving 4 and 3 pixels each frame. 4, 3, 4, 3. Which is, of course, the best way whole pixels can estimate the half pixels. So that's really what fractional pixels are in Game Maker. Fractional pixels do not affect gameplay, but they affect future calculations. So now, here's where we get to where it comes up in most I Want to Be the Guy of Fangames, which is in your vertical align. That fraction of a vertical pixel that we keep seeing at the end of the kid's Y position. So here's an example of where that will come up. So let's say the kid right now is at position 490 vertically. His Y position is at 490. By the way, for guys, if you don't know this already, in Game Maker, the higher your Y position, the lower you are. I don't know why that is. I do not know why they set the origin to the upper left corner instead of the lower left corner, like almost anyone else does, but that's how it is. So larger numbers equal lower down. So next frame, let's say he moves to, let's say he moves 6.3 pixels. That's what I said last time, and I know that worked out well. Wait, was that what I did last time? Hold on, I'm trying to remember here. Like, I want the numbers to work out right to demonstrate what I'm trying to show off here. Okay, yeah, this works. And let's say there is a floor at Y position 500. So what happens on next frame? So first frame, the kid's at position 490. Second frame, he's fallen 6.3 pixels because he's midair. And then on the next frame, he falls down 6.7 pixels because gravity makes him go faster each frame, right? So his speed got from 6.3 to 6.7. In theory, the kid would go down 6.7 pixels, which would take him to 503. But because 503 is below 500, and this is where the floor is, this would result in the kid phasing into the ground. So clearly, we can't allow that. This is bad. The kid can't go down to 503. He has to stop at position 500. So the floor overrides the gravity, and the kid does not go down that low. He stops at position 500. Well, the only problem to that is that, what does it mean to be at position 500? Like, does that mean that the kid's position is precisely 500, even all the way in the game's code will it say 500? Or does the kid only manifest at 500, and it can actually be at a range of positions? Well, it's the latter. The kid will manifest at position 500 on this frame, but his real position can be anywhere that in the range that rounds to 500. So you will be somewhere between 499.5 and 500.5, essentially. You will be somewhere between these two numbers, because that's the range that rounds to 500. Now, how does the game decide which of these to pick? Again, if Game Maker was smart, you would think that it would choose the exact middle. The kid's position would in fact be exactly 500.0. But instead, what it does is it tries to keep the fraction the fraction at the end consistent. It will use the same little fraction as it was from the previous frame. So in the previous frame, it was 0.3. So it will be the number in this range that ends in 0.3. And I'm just going to give you some basic exercises here just to make sure you guys haven't fallen asleep yet. Which number between this and this ends in 0.3? Not a trick question, it's as easy as it sounds. Do you know why that is? I do not know why that is. I think my only guess as to why it acts that way is for purposes of stability. Like, it doesn't want the kids to go from, say, 500.3 to 500 or something. Though, as of course you guys know, the stability thing doesn't actually work out as well as the Game Maker thought it would. OogieBoogie equals 500.3. Okay. So, what will happen here is that the kid moves to position 500.3. Because this rounds to 500, it will manifest as being on precisely 500, which is the height of the floor. That's what you want. But as the game wants, it will maintain the 0.3 from before. So can you see why it is? Do you see why the kid lands at 500.3? Okay, one person said yes, that's good enough. I like it when someone actually responds to my questions. But anyway, so that's basically why vertical lines happen. So let's go back to the actual, to this program to show this in action. Lemon is an expert. You guys don't, your yes means nothing. You guys already know all this stuff, so if you understand what I'm saying after I reteach you, it doesn't say much. But I know there are some new guys here who weren't here last stream and who don't know too much about this stuff, so, so if anyone is confused about this, please ask. Because all this is pretty second nature to me. I don't necessarily know how obvious the things I'm saying are, and how much of this is just beating a dead horse with a stick, and how much of this is actually being useful explanations. But anyway, so here's an example of vertical alliance in action, and we'll sort of explain how it works as it's going. Let's see here. So 16. Alright, it's already 16. What am I doing? You missed it, Ultra. Okay. So like I said before, the little fraction at the end, doesn't affect gameplay in the present. Like, when the kid is standing here, he is at 500, he is as far as he can to the right without touching this wall, and he's as far down without going into the wall. Without going into the ground. So, let's say an apple was thrown at the kid while he was right here. Whether or not the apple hits him is not affected by the little fraction here. So if an apple was to hit him at position 503.42, it would hit him at, well, of course, 0.43. It would also hit him at 503.31. It would also hit him at 0.13, and same with missing. So the kid's position here is precisely the same no matter what fraction of a pixel is at the end. But it does affect calculations in the future. And here's a good example of this. This was discovered a while back while we were first trying to figure out how all this V-align nonsense works. So what happens here is that, if you're holding forward and jumping, what happens here? Will the kid run to the spike and die, or will we jump over it? Well, there it seems they died, so apparently it always kills you, right? There again, it seems to kill you. But wait, there did not kill me. There didn't kill me. There didn't kill me. There did kill me. there did kill me. And there didn't kill me. Okay, so clearly, something's happening that's different between these jumps. For some reason, it's working sometimes, and sometimes I'm not able to jump over it. And of course, the possible difference is the V line. That's the only thing that's really changing here between these jumps. And what's happening here on a pixel-by-pixel level is, well, first off, to explain, this jump will result in you dying if your position here is less than 0.30. If you are less than 0.30, like right now it's 0.21, holding for jumping will die, result in you dying. Now it's above 0.30, so you won't die. Death, not death, and so on. And the reason that is that, again, remember, higher Y positions means lower down. So if you're above 0.30, that means you're on a low V line. So what happens here is that when you do a full jump forward, when he moves up by 2 frames, the kid's feet here will be almost exactly in line with this little line right here, this border between the block and the spike. And the question is, what tips the balance? What decides whether the kid goes slightly above the line, hits the spike, and what decides if the kid's feet are a little too low and run into the wall instead? And that is determined by the V line. If your V line is over 0.30, you will be a little lower. You'll be a fractional pixel lower than if your V line is less than 0.30. And that little difference, it makes enough of a difference for the kid to go below the spike line and hit the block instead. So what happens here, right now the kid's position is 0.37. The kid, oh, well, let's say it's the start of 0.27. So this is below 0.30. It's a little higher up. And when it comes time for him to be at his feet at the line, it'll go up a little bit. And instead of hitting the wall, he will ram right into the spike and die. But now it's above 0.30, so what happens in this frame is that he runs into the wall instead and does not die. And then he doesn't actually move forward until the next frame, at which point it's already like 7 pixels higher, so he can easily clear a jump from there. And voila. So that's a clear example of V lines in action. Obviously, it's a bit bullshit if this kind of thing was included in an actual game like Ultra Gamer's Master Stage, because most fan games don't actually show you your vertical line. You kind of just have to guess, and it's completely invisible for obvious reasons. But let me give you another example showing this off in action. Let's pull up another one of Ultra's games. I Wanna Beat the Magic Jump 2. You can see that his Magic Jump series was pretty much designed around testing out these new pixel techniques each time they were discovered. HLS, what's that again? Okay, so this jump. Anyone who's seen the last stage of Brood of a Man knows that this is a reference to a shortened jump in Brood of a Man. That's essentially this jump right here, but in diamond formation with another one right next to it. So this is an easy version of that jump, essentially. So it seems like an innocuous enough jump, right? The kid has a height of 21 pixels. This is a 24 pixel gap here, so he has decent leeway to jump to the soul. Go over here and double jump here, and you're good. So that seems to be the case, right? That seems like it shouldn't be too hard. But of course, this jump for some reason is only possible, as the calculations work out, when your V line is above 0.45. Hold on. And by the way, an easy way to change your V line around is by doing full jumps. That will just constantly change you but that will maintain your hundredths digit. So 0.46, 0.36, 0.26, 0.16, 0.46. So the 6 is maintained due to full jumps. So anyway, when you're at this right vertical line, you're able to complete this jump, though it requires you to actually, because of the height is in such a weird place, it requires the kid to jump a little above and fall forward. And if you're wondering why you can't just jump to right height, it's because of the fact that frame jumping is so discontinuous. One frame you're too low, one frame you're too high. But anyway, now that I'm at the right vertical line, I should be able to beat this jump. It'll probably take a few tries regardless. Oh look, I did it first try. That was convenient. Yes, Magic 2 first try. That's vertical lines in action. Then, Farok, you're supposed to ask a question here. So really, that's all there is to know about vertical lines. Well, that's the basic version, at least. So let's go back to the Dietrich's program. Yeah, that's probably the first question you might want to ask at this point. But okay, so, if you've been paying a lot of attention to the Y position in these past few minutes, you might be wondering why the Y position always seems to be in such a tiny fraction of the possible endings. Like, if you'll notice, the position is always going to be between 0.10 and 0.50. As you can see, it never goes below, never goes below 0.10 and never goes above 0.50. So why is that? I mean, it probably isn't obvious from the fact that it's moving so fast. But when you're mid-air, it can be any position. Like, there's no reason why 0.70 why GameMaker can't handle 0.70, and it does all the time. But when you land on the ground, it seems to always go to one of these, into this tiny range of 0.40 numbers, between 0.10 and 0.50. So I'm not going to explain why that is. So let's go back to Microsoft Word again. And this is going to get into the next technique, which is called bunny hopping. So let's change this example around a little bit. Let's say instead of starting at 490, you start at 490.25. So you fold down 6.3, so it takes me to 496.55. So what happens next frame? Yes, bunny hopping is the best. And I may be a little biased here because I'm the person who discovered it among the American players, even though it was already well into Japanese in the first place, but that's besides the point. So what happens at this next frame here? So you're about to touch the ground, and like I said before, oh yes, this was of course in the original I Want to Be the Guy. But okay, so what happens here? So I mentioned before that, that you will always land in this range here, and but you will maintain the fraction pixel from before, 0.55. So what number in this range here ends in 0.55? Again, this is not a trick question. Hopefully at least a few of you will be able to figure out what number between these two numbers ends in 0.55. Yay! You figured it out! Woo. Okay. So... Well, so if this is the number that you get, why is it the case that you never see 0.55 in the engine? Why do you never see your floor position ending in 0.55? Well, the reason is because as it happens, gravity continues to act on you even when you're on the ground. Like, no matter, even if you're standing on the ground for the past 5 minutes, every single frame, the game's gravity calculation will go through and result in the game trying to see if it can pull you down even further. Which seems kind of pointless. You would think the gravity would stop working once you hit the ground, but it doesn't. So here's how the gravity calculation affects this. So gravity, by the way, is, this number will come up again later, gravity is 0.4. That was 0.5. 0.4. So, gravity tries to act on you, and it will try pulling you down. However, it will be overridden. The game will tell gravity it can't pull you down anymore if pulling you down would result in the kid phasing into the ground. So that's the only time gravity won't work. And that's the only time the game will override the gravity calculation. But will that happen here? So first off, math question. What is 499.55 plus 0.4? And does that result in the kid facing into the ground? Okay, if it pulls, so if you're at position 499.5, and the gravity tries pulling you down by 0.4, what position will you end up on, and would that result in you phasing into the ground? No, Hector, don't answer. I officially banned Hector from, So no, yeah, okay. But I officially banned Hector from answering questions. Unfortunately, Hector is the only mod here, so no one here is actually able to control him. Hold on a second. I need to mod someone. How do you mod people again? I cannot allow there to be a monopoly. Okay, I'll mod Ultra. Click Ultra's name. Okay. Follow, timeout, ban, voice, invoice, OP. Ultra Gamer, you are hereby have to censor any Hector's answering questions. Okay, but as Denfarog and Hito got it right, 499.95 is what it takes you to, and you do not phase into the ground because it results in you. Oh really? Hold on, I have to unmod Hector. There we go. Okay. Well, you said no, and that's close enough to an answer. Wait, was it Hito answered that before? Yeah, you said no. But anyway, so gravity is not overridden because the kid does not phase into the ground if he goes down by 0.4. So the kid's, so let's say here, so first frame, so first frame the kid's at 499.55, the second frame he goes down to 499.95 because of gravity. Oh. No, Hector. I'm just being silly. But anyway, so third frame. So next question, what happens on the third frame? So let's see if you guys can figure this one out. On the third frame, will the gravity pull down the kid further, or will he stand in the same place? So try calculating it. It's a bit of a trick question, but will gravity be overridden on the third frame? And if I get to figure that one out, I'm gonna go get a drink of water. Okay, so Den answered 500.35, and that's technically not correct, because if you notice that on the second frame, the kid has moved down by 0.4, so his speed is 0.4. Now gravity will try increasing that to 0.8, and the question is, will that work? So what happens if the game tries to pull the kid down by 0.8? Well, what number do you get? What is 499.95 plus 0.8? And does that result in the kid going to the ground? Okay, Lemon, you can answer. Okay, then you got it. Okay, so that would result in the kid 500.7 because Lemon is special. Yes, because that would, on the third frame, that would result in him phasing into the ground. But we can't do that. That would get him past the 0.5, and he goes into the ground. So the game says, nope, that will not work. So, he will actually, just stay at 499.95 for the third frame. He does not move down at all, because the game tries pulling him down by 0.8, which is too much. So what happens at the fourth frame, then? Well, basically, what happens here is what then answered before. But now that the speed is 0, because between these two frames, the kid's speed did not change at all, so his speed is 0. And now gravity increases 0 to 0.4. And can he go down by 0.4? Yes, he can. That takes down to 500.3. Which manifests at 500. So that does not round up. He does not face into the ground. So and he goes to 500.35. And now you can see what happens for the rest of eternity, essentially. Fifth frame, and so on. Gravity can only result in a kid by moving down by 0.4 or greater. Like, whether it be 0.8 or 0.4 or whatever, adding that to 500.35 would result in a number that goes past 500.5 and would result in the kid facing into the ground. So for the rest of eternity, essentially, the kid stays at 500.35. So this is stable. Does that make sense? Can you see why 500.35 is a stable position in Game Maker? Hector, you are banned from correcting as well. Let it be known. Okay. So you can see why a number is always between 0.10 and 0.50. Because these are the vertical lines where adding 0.4 will result in kid facing into the ground and will therefore get overridden by the game calculations. So stable V lines versus the unstable V lines. You can Hector, you can write sarcastic comments, though Ultra can sarcastically delete them if he pleases. Let's see here. And the unstable vertical lines are negative 0.5 to 0.1. Or I guess you could just call them any number that's greater than 0.5 or less than a 0.1. So 0.50 to 0.99 and 0.00 to 0.10. Ultra, you are allowed to use your mod privileges any way you like on Hector. Yes, it's finally went through. Ultra Gamer is officially one of my mods now. So you can see here why, and for example, if we apply this to 499, this means that 499.5 to 500.1 are unstable, and 500.1 to 500.5 are stable. So okay, so you can see why you might see that it's kind of bad these are unstable, because that's actually the majority of the lines. The majority of the possible vertical lines are unstable, which means that you can't normally use them, because as the kid stands around, they always go down to this part. So first off, obviously it's bad that we can only use some of the V lines, but in particular, these are specifically the highest V lines. All V lines, the top 60% in terms of height, are unstable. So clearly it'd be helpful if we had a way to make use of these V lines. So that's where bunny hopping comes from. Because the only way to be able to jump from a V line that's in the unstable range is if you do a single jump the moment you land on the ground, before the game has an opportunity to deploy down onto a stable V line. And this is where bunny hopping comes from. So let's test this out. So as a way I'll test this out, I have to use a sort of a spike example. Let's see here. So let's see here. How low can we get the spike? Don't worry, Ultra. I'm keeping that a secret for now. Okay, here we go. So if you look at these two spikes, the spike on the left is 1 pixel higher than the spike on the right. But let's see, did I get that right? Yeah, it's precisely 1 pixel higher. But the kid only hits the right one when I jump. So this is clearly a good way to determine the kid's height. Well, for starters, I don't really understand Ultra Gamer's technique that well yet. And he hasn't actually released his Magic 4 yet. But you guys can all try to figure it out for yourself when it gets released. But anyway, so this spike is right above the kid's jumping height. And the question is it possible to hit this spike using only a single jump? And the answer is yes, but it requires a bunny hop to get the little extra pixel you need to hit that spike. So there's two ways to sort of bunny hop. One is you can just do it randomly. The other way is to be more organized about it. I'll start out just by doing just by jumping around randomly and see how long it takes me. This is obviously a stupid way to do it, but this is how I actually originally discovered technique, just by jumping around randomly and seeing if I could hit that spike before I knew how to do it reliably. So it might take me a few tries here, but this is literally what I had to do. Because it's fun to press left and right. Wiggling is fun. This is very fun, guys. See, I hit it. I got it, guys. Hit the spike. Okay, so how do you do that reliably? Obviously, that clearly establishes the existence of bunny hopping, but is there a way to actually make use of it reliably without jumping around randomly like I just did? Yeah, well, this is kind of like, what's that game? Karoshi. See how successfully committing suicide. But okay, so a good way to do this reliably is to look at the height of a gate jump. So this is a gate jump, this basic position here, and what's the highest you can jump before you hit this little pixel, before you hit the spike above? Well, as it happens, a 5-frame jump is the highest you can jump before you hit the top of the spike. And as anyone who's talked to me a lot in the past knows, a 5-frame jump is what you want to use to reliably bunny hop. A bunny hop will occur if your V-line is between 0.3 and 0.50, and you do a 5-frame jump. You will land on a very high pixel, on a very high V-line, I mean. So right now, what you want to do for this jump specifically is be between 0.30 and 0.40, do a 5-frame jump, and jump the moment you land. And that's a reliable way to do a bunny hop. So let's see if I can do that right now. got it wrong. Change my V line again. Okay. Like that. So as you can see, that's a reliable way to get this little extra pixel of height that you need to do this sort of jump. Yep. So obviously that's kind of neat in itself, but of course you want to see where this actually comes up and I want to be the guy games. So let's start off with what should I start with? I'll show I want to beat the magic jump. I want not the magic jump, mega jump. Later, Hector, or later. Don't be so impatient. Hold on a second. So for the rest of these techniques, because a lot of them are very difficult to do reliably, and I don't want to make myself look like a fool trying over and over again to do these techniques that I can't do reliably, I'm just going to show off videos from various players showing them doing these techniques in action. So here I'm going to show a video from 0G. Hold on a second, I want to beat the mega jump. There we go. Let's get the video upright. So, hold on a second. Trying to get this to go over well. It'll probably be better just to make a separate window for YouTube videos. Give me a second. I think this is a good window for it. Okay, so let's skip over to where he succeeds with the mega jump. So if you guys don't know, I made a game a while ago called I Want to Beat the Mega Jump, which pretty much combines the Dietrich from I Want to Beat the Magic Jump with bunny hopping, and resulting in a very long block jump. And it also combines with both of those, a perfectly timed double jump. And this results in you being able to jump as high as possible. This results in the max height jump and a max distance for that height. There probably won't be a mega jump 3, simply because it would be too stupid. So 0 here will show this off. You can see here what he's doing. He needs to do a bunny hop where he lands on the perfect on the corner so that he can do the Dietrich right at the end, as well as do the bunny hop to get the extra height you need. And you can see that he keeps doing 5-frame jumps to succeed. Come on, Hector, it wasn't that bad. No one complained about it except you. Ultra, you are allowed to ban Hector if he makes any more criticisms of my games. Okay. So that's a clear example of bunny hopping in action. But usually, as it happens, bunny hopping isn't necessarily for the purpose of making jumps go further, but are sometimes actually there just because you need a very specific vertical line, and that vertical line does not happen to be in the correct range. So here we get to the example that Hector keeps asking me to show, which is 2.25 or 2.375 inverts. I'll show 2.375 this time. Okay. Well, no, that's kind of a stupid game. That was just a one-jump game. I want to show you on Be the Insanity, because that's sort of the game where most people have heard this from. Yeah, but you asked it a bunch of times last time. Okay. So I'll just try varying the people I show for my videos. Let's see, I think I showed the Sunblaws last time. Yeah. Oh, no way, I showed Tears jumps once last time. But whatever, the point is, here we go. Yeah, for helping her with this. But okay. So you can see here that this is a relatively popular jump in very advanced fan games, which is basically the invert position, which is this, but 2.25 times over. And as it happens, because of how far it is to do this, you have to use bunny hopping. And the reason is because the only vertical lines that work here are unstable lines. And you make use of those simply because when you do this forward jump, you want to do the double jump. You want to be as far as you can before you have to do the double jump, which means you want to be able to have as much time as possible to fall down before you hit the spikes below. And if you use one of the unstable vertical lines, you can be a little higher, which actually, and that little pixel, and jump down something won't let you get far enough. And you can get that extra little pixel that will let you be just above the bottom spikes and not die instantly to those. And that is the difference it takes to beat this jump. So that's sort of like a basic explanation of why you need to do bunny hopping to beat this, as Sunblow will demonstrate. Oh, tell you, these only get more and more aids as it goes on. So yeah. So that's that's bunny hopping in action. It's not that common of a technique, but this jump right here, which is pretty popular in advanced fan games, is probably the most common situation, the most likely situation in which you'll be seeing this technique. So that's bunny hopping. Anyway, I guess it's time to go on to the next technique, which is probably the one's probably going to take up most of the rest of